All right, let's get right into it. If you've ever built an AI agent, you know that amazing moment when it actually starts to reason and plan things out. It feels like you've created this brilliant mind, but then you usually hit a wall. How do you get that brilliant mind to do stuff? To actually interact with your code, your data, your world? That's the gap we're going to bridge right now. And this is the core question, isn't it? We have this agent that can think, but its thoughts are basically trapped. It can't just go and query your company's database, or hit your private APIs, or mess with your local files. So the real problem is, how do we connect its amazing brain to a set of hands? The best way to picture this is to imagine your brand new agent is inside a box. It's super powerful, sure, but it's completely isolated. Our job as the developers is to build the doors and windows for that box, giving it a safe and totally controlled way to interact with everything on the outside. So here's our game plan. We'll start by really defining this agent-in-a-box problem. Then we'll see how tools are the key to unlocking the door. But that's going to lead us to a new challenge, the context window limit, which we'll solve with a super clever technique called progressive disclosure using skills. We'll walk through a real example to see it in action, and then we'll talk about why this whole modular approach is such a game changer. So yeah, this is square one. Your standard AI agent is a fantastic reasoning engine, but it's fundamentally disconnected. It has no idea what your database schemas look like or what your internal APIs are. It's the genius who can't actually do anything with its intelligence. So the very first, most important upgrade we need to make is to give our agent tools. Think of these as the bridge from the agent's brain to the real world. Tools are literally how we give that brilliant mind a set of hands. And you know what's so powerful about this? This simplicity. A tool isn't some brand new complex framework you have to learn. It's literally just a piece of code, probably a Python function you've already written. The real magic is how you package it with a clear name and, this is absolutely crucial, a really good description. The agent reads that description to figure out, okay, what does this do and when should I use it? And the process itself? It's so straightforward, just 3 steps. You write a normal Python function, then you write a super clear descriptive docstring for it. Seriously, this is the most important part for the agent. And then you just register that function as a tool. That's it. You've just given your agent a brand new superpower. But you know how it is. You solve one problem and a new one pops right up. We've given our agent tools, it can connect to our databases. Fantastic. But in any big company, that could mean thousands of tables. And this creates a huge new problem: information overload. This quote from the LangChain docs just nails it. You can't just dump your entire company's data architecture into the agent's prompt. Its working memory, what we call the context window, is limited. Trying to do that would be like trying to memorize a 1,000-page encyclopedia before answering one simple question. It's just not going to happen. This context window is a serious bottleneck. It's the agent's short-term memory, and it's precious real estate. So we need a much smarter way to feed it the right information at exactly the right time without flooding it. We have to be selective. And that brings us to the really elegant solution, a concept called skills, which is powered by a technique called progressive disclosure. This is how we give the agent access to a massive library of knowledge without trying to cram it all in at once. Think of a skill as an expert in a box. It's this self-contained package of knowledge for one specific thing, like sales analytics or inventory management. It's got the database schemas, the business logic, all the instructions for just that task. And here's the key. It's loaded only when needed. And progressive disclosure? That's the secret sauce that makes this whole skills idea work so beautifully. Instead of loading the entire detailed skill up front, the agent only sees a brief one-line description of each skill it has access to. Then, when it decides a particular skill is relevant, it uses a tool to load the full contents of that skill into its working memory. This table really helps clarify the difference between skills and an agent's core memory. Memory is for the stuff that's always on, right? Like its core instructions or user preferences that get put into every single prompt. Skills, on the other hand, are for those big, on-demand capabilities. You would never put a huge database schema in memory, but it's perfect for a skill that only gets loaded when the agent needs to write a SQL query. Okay, theory is great, but seeing it in action is what really makes it all click. So let's walk through a real-world example of a SQL assistant that uses this exact pattern. You'll see how all these pieces fit together perfectly.
just look how efficient this is. The user asks a question. The agent, at this point, doesn't have any schemas loaded. It just sees two short descriptions. It intelligently figures out that high-value customers matches the sales analytics skill. Then, and only then, does it use a tool to load the full detailed schema into its context. And finally, with the right info in its working memory, it writes the perfect query. It's absolutely surgical. So let's zoom out for a second. Why is this modular, skill-based way of building so important? This isn't just a neat little trick. It's a fundamental shift in how we can build AI agents that can actually scale in complex environments. Well, this approach gives us some huge advantages. First, it massively reduces context usage, which saves you money on tokens and makes everything faster. Second, it lets different teams work on their own stuff. The sales team can own their skill, the inventory team can own theirs, and they don't step on each other's toes. Third, you can scale this up to hundreds of skills without ever overwhelming the agent. And finally, because it's all handled by one agent, the conversation stays simple and clean for the user. When you get right down to it, you stop thinking about building one single, giant, know-it-all agent. Instead, what you're really building is a platform for a whole team of on-demand virtual experts, where each one can be called into action at a moment's notice. And that leaves us with a pretty powerful thought to end on. This pattern of packaging expertise into on-demand skills, it's universal. It works for database queries, sure, but it also works for complex financial modeling or medical diagnostics or anything really. If any expert workflow can be defined and packaged up, then the barrier to creating incredibly capable, specialized AI just got a whole lot lower. So the question isn't just what you'll build, but what entirely new kinds of problems are we all about to solve?